Hey everyone, this is Brian at F Studios. This next section, or this next session of videos that I'm going to do, it's going to be about mixing of one particular song. The song that I'm going to be working on is something that was hosted and promoted by Lewitt Microphones, I believe it was, back in October last year. Anyway, the deal is that they were going to have this contest where aspiring audio engineers and stuff could download this track, all the stems, and mix it, turn it in, and enter the competition for the drawings to and win about what? It was something like $2,000 worth of microphones or something like that. Anyway, I figured, what the hell? I wasn't really too interested in the competition, but I wanted to see just what kind of stuff, what kind of music, what kind of recording quality and mix quality I can get from thereof. Professional audio sources would deem as being a great recording to start a mix with. So I downloaded it all, and instead of using a DAW, I want to use my Yamaha unit here because I personally feel that the O2R mixer on this thing produces a far much better sound than what you get out of most of the DAW plugins for EQ and just the overall sound quality of your tracks, whether you're recording them or mixing them. And it means that I have to do some things to, make some adjustments. This machine here is limited to only 16 tracks, playback or record simultaneous, even though it'll hold 130 tracks per song. So that being the case, I got to make some adjustments because the files that are all there for this song, I think there's 23 of them. And there's 11 of them, or maybe more, 12 of them maybe, just for the drum tracks. So the first thing I'm going to end up doing is I want to start bouncing down some of those tracks, because what they did is they got a stereo track for one side of the overheads, a stereo track for the other side of the overheads, a separate track for the ride, a separate track for the hi-hat. And of course, there's the clock. I haven't turned that off yet. I should have turned the chime off on it, but oh well, fuck it. And then they had a separate track for the upper snare, separate track for lower snare mic, separate track for inner kick, separate track for outer kick. They had a track for a different type of mic that was added some kind of natural compression to the overall kit. And then they also used DI tracks and microphone recorded tracks for bass and keyboards and things like that. And I'm going to take a listen to all that kind of stuff and just decide what I want to keep or how I want to blend it so I can get it all worked down to be within the 16 tracks that I have to work with before I really start going in and mixing everything. So right now, let's go ahead and take a look, just take a listen to what the drum tracks are going to sound like. No EQ, no dynamics processing. It's just going to be pulling levels up and just trying to get it to balance and get an idea for how I want to bounce down all the overheads and the cymbal ride and the hi-hat and stuff into just two tracks, bounce down the snare channels into just one track, bounce down the kick channels into just one track, and so forth. So that's what we're going to be working on right now. That's what I'm going to be working on. And depending on how long it takes, that may be the only thing that I do within this part of the video sessions. And then we'll move on to the next session at another time where we kind of work on the other parts. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. I got to find out what tracks are what here, basically, because they're not labeled or anything. I just got them in the system, just got things kind of organized, rearranged. And so now it's going to be just testing out to see what really is what and how it's going to fit. Hence why I'm wearing headphones as opposed to going through monitors. I get a better sense of spatial presence here with everything to try and hear just how the phasing differences is between overheads and the close mic on the hi-hat, things like that, you know what I mean? So I can try to get them all to line up better. So let's start, see what happens. I'm kind of curious as to how good I can make this come out. Oh, and by the way, I'm not going to do like a quick mix thing here like a lot of young independent musicians hope to get from studios and mixing engineers. I'm going to actually take my time to really try and see exactly how great I can get this to sound. That includes just changing things around whenever there's a new idea that I may have or whatnot to try out. This whole song itself, just so everybody knows, was recorded live in a club venue. So there are a set of room mics in here, which I'll add later on and see what they're really going to sound like. But for the most part, right now I'm just going to be working with the dry tracks that are mic'd up to the direct instruments, or the DI tracks later on with the things like the bass, the keyboard, and whatnot. Once again, here we go. Let's see what happens. All right, that's got to be an overhead. The way I see it on the track, on the channel, the volume, the fader channels, is that it's pretty loud on one side, quiet. There's the next channel over is a little bit quieter, but it seems to follow the same pattern. So I think this is the stereo track right here. So I'm going to pair those out, and we're going to go ahead and separate them to stereo. Back that up. Okay, yeah, that's the stereo track, but even panned in stereo, it's still pretty heavy on the left side as opposed to the right channel. Let's go ahead and turn those off. Just looking at my volume screen here, it looks like 3 and 4 are going to be the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and start that up right away. Yeah, it's more overhead. Sounds like it's coming from the same side, though. Turning them both on. Yeah, they're both kind of left of center there. I don't believe that's how it's supposed to work. Let's go ahead and... There we go. That brings the snare to the dead center. And it gives us some panning on cymbals and the hi-hat. The kick still sounds like it's off to the left, but generally when people are putting up overheads, they're trying to make the snare itself sound pretty damn mono. So let's see. I'm kind of curious as to why they chose to run 2 stereo mics, or just 2 stereo channels for left and right. I'm not sure what's really going on here. Maybe they were going to do a mid-side setup. Maybe not. I don't know. Let me set things up that way to see if it makes a difference. Let's go back to the beginning. I'm going to unpair these two. All right, this is more of a mid-side setup. Still getting stereo separation. Much fuller sound though in just a standard stereo setup. I don't know, I may have to just play with this a bit. See if what I may like. Let's go ahead and turn this back into just standard stereo setup. And I am going to start bringing in the rest of the kit, see what happens. That is getting rid of a lot of the lower, centered frequencies right there, just setting it up that way and giving us just a more of a stereo image. So yeah, I may have to play with this a little bit after I get the rest of the kit in there. In fact, I'm going to leave it alone just like this, and I'm going to start bringing up the other elements of the kit. Let's go ahead and turn those off. Okay, I'm pretty sure that is the hi-hat. Okay, that's one of the kicks. I believe that's the inner kick, because I can hear the attack more on that kick, but I might be wrong. Nah. This is the outer kick, and that's the inner kick. I can tell because the other parts of the drum, such as the snare, are much quieter, and it just sounds more muffled sounding. So those pieces will have to be blended. Start this track back over. In a way, I just like how it sounds with the outer kick. But we can bring up the inner kick just to add a little more body. Go ahead and turn on the outside. All right, let's see what the next channel is. I don't know. I don't think that's a snare. Snare's pretty strong through it, but no, I don't think that's a snare. Still too much bleed with everything else, I think, to be just the snare. Ah, there it is. It's the upper rack tom. So let's back this up. Right there. Now, if you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm going to just put this on a repeat so I can then turn on the overheads and see how it's blending in with those. Okay, I think the overheads, it's going to be on the left. Yeah. And then let's go ahead and listen to track 9. That is going to be the lower kick, or the lower tom. I'm pretty damn sure that's the lower tom. Let's go ahead and center it back out. Just listen. If it is a tom, there's really not a lot of work on the toms here, is there? Yeah, it's the floor tom. All right, go ahead and back it back up to the beginning. Let's turn it on and see what's more we got here. Doesn't really sound too bad as it is, but remember, we don't even have the snares brought up yet. I don't even think the ride mic is in here yet. I don't know, number 5 there. That might actually be the ride mic. I believe it is. All right, let's go ahead and turn up channel 10, see what that's going to be. Ah, there's the hi-hat. Let's go ahead and just pull that hard left already, then bring everything else. We'll start it back from the beginning, because we're nearly... Maybe I'm right. Maybe that's not the hi-hat. Sure sounds like it'd be the hi-hat, though. Alright, so right there I just changed the panning of the hi-hat mic itself from being a full 100% to the right and brought it up to about like 9 o'clock or 3 o'clock. Okay, so which one's next? Let's try channel 11. Alright, that is the bottom snare mic. So number 12 is probably the top. Yep. Sounds like there's a little bit of compression on that top snare mic too. That might actually be the microphone choice they used. And then number 13. That sounds like another mic that's been used to capture the overall kit with some compression on it. So let's go ahead and listen to all these. Let's go bring up that last mic that's got the compression on it. I don't really see that it adds a whole bunch at the moment. There's without it. There's with it. Without. With it. Yeah, I don't really know. That doesn't really sound like it's that big of a deal. Let's go ahead and turn the phase off of these overheads, so that everything's normal phase again, and get rid of that mid-side kind of effect that I put on here. Definitely sounds fuller without using the phasing. I think for now I may leave it like that. Okay, so right now I'm just wanting to isolate the overheads, the ride cymbal, and the hi-hat mic. I'm pretty sure that's it. So these mics, these channels, 1 through 5, and then 8. They've all got to get bussed down and bounced down to their own tracks. 6 and 7 need to go to their own single track. 9 and 10 were the toms, I believe. I'm going to leave those alone. 11 and 12 are the snare. They're going to go to their own track. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. Okay, so yeah, that's going to be the actual sound, the bus feed of just the snares, the upper and lower. That's just the feed of the kick going through the bus. All right, so overheads. Let's check the overheads, right? I'm waiting for a hi-hat section to come back in. There it was, but it's just... There we go. Let's turn off... Turn it back to the beginning. Let's hear what this... Now, if you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm just fast forwarding through it, just hearing the little bits and pieces that come through to see if there's anything else that's standing out strongly on this track, because I've already forgotten, since I don't have anything actually physically labeled here at the moment, what is what, and I want to be absolutely certain before I actually end up bouncing these things down. But yeah, from the sound of things, this is the hi-hat track. But the way the overheads are picking everything up, it really doesn't sound like it's needed at all. So here's the whole thing just being bussed into the two channels. So now I am going to take a listen to those tracks that I just bounced. Make sure they came out okay. So there's just the snare, just the kick, and that's the overheads. It's going to be the hi-hat and the ride. Let's go ahead and turn the stereo output on everything else again. Actually, that sounds pretty good. I like how the balance came out with all those separate pieces. So, of course, we're going to save the progress. And then I'm going to get all the channels for the drums lined up again. All right, so we have 7 tracks now for the drums instead of 13. Normally, I get away with 4 to 6 tracks for the drums. But because they're doing a compression mic of some sorts, we're adding that one into the mix. So we have a stereo track that captures overheads, ride, and hi-hat. 2 individual tracks for the upper tom and lower tom, and then 2 individual tracks. We're going to have 1 track that has both inner and outer kick mics, and 1 individual track that has both upper and lower snare mic. So at this point, I'm going to reset everything so it's back to normal. And I'm just going to bring up those individual drum channels that we just ended up bouncing. And I think that'll be where I end this session of the videos. And the next session that I come to, it's going to be bringing in some of the other instruments and finding out what we need as far as if it's going to sound good enough without the DI and just the mic, or maybe the other way around, or blend them both together. That's without that compressed mic. That's with the compressed mic. With the compressed mic. I don't know. I don't really find that it's absolutely necessary. I may be able to use it for some other effect, like making a really hard compressed channel there for the drums and see what that turns out. But right now, I don't think it's adding a whole hell of a lot. just for shits and giggles, let's see what happens when we reverse the phase on the stereo overhead mic. Definitely changed how you hear the background and stuff. Still a little fuller in a natural phase. That'll be interesting to see what happens once the full mix starts coming along. Anyway, this is Brian at F Studios. This is the first session of this mix video process. I'll see you guys for the next one, where we actually start listening to the other instruments and finding out what we want to keep and what I want to bring in for the rest of this mix. You guys take it easy.